This is the week leading up to the game. So I need to say little else, but we will talk for quite a while here with Justin Rowe from Blue by 90. And head on over to blueby90.com. Justin, we appreciate you stopping by. And here we are.
We made it. It's 11-0 versus 11-0. You couldn't script it any better. If you would have told me after last year's Michigan-Ohio State game that we'd have even higher stakes somehow than last year, I'd call you a liar. But, it's one of those things, Mark. I think, obviously you're a college football all year round guy. It's like the season starts and you're like, I'm so pumped for football, but now I always want to get to the Michigan-Ohio State game as quickly as possible because I want it to be here. But now I'm like, man, we're to the last game of the year already. I don't want the season to end. Obviously, for Michigan fans, it's like I love winning every week. So we haven't been able to experience 11-0 in a long time.
This is what makes college football so amazing among so many other things is that, the stakes of the games and now the stakes of all the other games add up to, okay, the climax being this. And this game is enormous in regards to pride and rivalry and all that. So all that's built in regardless of what their records are. And then you throw on all the national implications and it's just, it can't be any bigger. It's impossible.
It's impossible to get any bigger. We'll end up, so we're number 2 versus number 3, right? I mean, who cares about the SEC, Mark? Nobody cares about Georgia. I think like this is, to me, as a Big Ten fan, this is the pinnacle. Like this is, it does not. I think you could say a lot of people. You could pull a lot of people, and they'd say college football is at its best when Michigan, Ohio State are going at it for the Big Ten title game, and more, right?
Absolutely. I think that's one thing Ohio State and Michigan fans can agree on is the magnitude of this game.
Yeah.
Of the game every year, and then this particular game, first time since 2006, they both come in undefeated. So we saw what we saw at the Big House and in College Park last week, and maybe they were look-aheads, letdowns, all those things, but there were quality opponents in play. I don't want to take away from them, so we'll focus on the Michigan end of it, and obviously as it applies to, because regardless of how they got it done. So it's checked off, it's done. So we don't need to go into it from that aspect, but more from Justin. I jumped on here at halftime of the Michigan-Illinois game.
Was the sky falling?
Oh, my word. Like people were saying, and I'm not talking about like one crackhead. I'm not talking about 3. I'm talking about dozens saying,
oh my gosh,
season's over. I'm not even watching next week. We're going to get killed. I'm like, people, calm.
But are the Ohio State fans saying the same thing? Because I think it's just I think college football fans are just crazy in general. But I think, I think that, to me, like that it's just the epitome of Michigan fans there, where it's like you literally can go a perfect season up until this game and people are still going to doubt. People are still going to like panic mode completely. It's so funny. It's just, you never win by enough. You never, you just can't be good enough ever. I actually went over it, on a couple Twitter spaces on our podcast. Like, can we enjoy having the best 11 game stretch, the best 20 whatever game stretch of Michigan football over the past 2 seasons that we've had since early 2000s? Right? Like, that's where we're at. Enjoy it for at least a second, before you go to Columbus. And I think, obviously we all want to like maximize. And I think you look at that Michigan-Illinois game and there was a lot of points left on the table for Michigan. There's no going around that. That's for sure. But I think Mark, you watch every single year, even when teams go 11-0, 12-0, whatever it is, they have struggles throughout the year. It's so hard to go out and win every football game every week. Like, I don't think people realize how hard it is, especially when you're a Michigan or Ohio State, when you're getting everyone's best every single week. You've got the target on your back. And Illinois, they're a good football team. They're like legitimately a good football team. Bielema has them really well coached, and that defense is legit. And then you obviously have your Heisman guy go down in the second half, and like everyone's like, shocked that our offense took a hit. And like, I mean, obviously you wanted to see a little bit more probably out of JJ than what happened, but I don't know. I think you're happy to get out of there with a win and get on to Columbus. A lot to learn, but I think that's ultimately you go out and you do what you need to win a football game.
I'm going to say something that both Ohio State and Michigan fans are going to completely reject, and they're not going to remember this or take it to heart, but I'm going to say it anyway. These two teams are playing, so somebody is going to lose the game. And unless that score is 45-10 or something, if this is as good as we think that doesn't mean that the loser's team program is broken. It needs to be like dismantled. There's something wrong. There's something tragically wrong. Yeah,
that's ridiculous of you to say.
Because there's a collision course. Somebody's going to lose this game. So that doesn't mean you need to be happy about it or tolerate it. Yeah, you can be a demanding college football fan and say, we have to win the Big Ten championship and go to the playoff. I totally respect that position as being we're Michigan, we're elite. We're Ohio State, we're elite. Nothing else is going to do. So we've got to go through each other. So we're not playing in the Big Ten West. We can't go 8-4 and go to the Big Ten championship game and win.
Oh my God. It's so unfair, Mark. Oh my God. We could have an entire discussion on
off season.
But yeah, that's off season. Perfect. No, I agree with that 100%. I think, like you go and look at the stats. We had one of our podcasters tweeted out. Let's see here. It was since Harbaugh was hired at Michigan in 2015, there's only 7 Power 5 programs that have at least 5 10-plus win seasons. Clemson, Bama, Ohio State, Georgia, Oklahoma, Michigan, Notre Dame. That's it. So that's where I think you have to look at that as a whole instead of look at this weekend. And if Jim doesn't get it done, then it's like he's back on the hot seat. We're back to 2020, and like, no, he's got this program in the best spot that it's been in a really, really long time. And I wanted to transition this into something here and get your gauge on it, because for the first time in a long time, I felt like Michigan seems like the aggressor right now. Maybe you take a little step back because of a struggle, against Illinois and Corum going down. But like for the first time, it feels like Michigan is like not this big underdog and like you got to go slay the dragon. It feels like they're on kind of the same plane, and Michigan can go be the aggressor. And Ohio State at times this year has felt a little bit on their heels, in these last probably month, I would call it. Do you feel kind of the same way?
I think that when we came into this season, I thought Alabama and Georgia and Ohio State were the 3 best rosters and the 3 best teams. I had more questions about Ohio State than those other 2, but I thought that they certainly had the talent that if they addressed their issues on defense, that those 3 were above anybody else. But as the season progressed, and Michigan came just from a physically dominant place and also consistency week to week to week to executing what they do on offense and defense, that I slowly, and then as Ohio State issues started to crop up against the likes of Penn State and Iowa in particular, started to see these teams as equals. And so I've arrived at that place where I don't know who's going to win. Where in September, I thought, I want to see Ohio State play Notre Dame. And if they can punch them in the mouth and show that they're physical and tough, which I thought they did on both sides of the ball, okay, this team's legit. They're obviously always legit, but I mean, like really good. And yeah, Michigan's really good too, but they're a touchdown to 10 points back of Ohio State. That's what I thought in September. I don't think that now.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that, there were so many questions about this team going into September, right? Where it was, the quarterback position was obviously a huge question. And then you just question, are they going to be able to reload? Can Corum, handle the Hassan Haskins responsibilities and the Blake Corum responsibilities? Guess what? He has been able to do that and some. And we wondered if this defense was going to be able to reload. Everyone thought this defense was going to take a step back. And you look at where they stand nationally, and it's like they've taken a step forward, actually. So that's where I feel that for the first time, I truly feel like Michigan's on that same plane as Ohio State going into this game, where they can go in and say, we're just as good or better than this team that we're lining up against. We don't have to, play this perfect game and everything's got to align perfectly for us to win this game. If we line up, if we do what we're supposed to, we think that we can go toe to toe with them. And I think that's how the players feel now. It's no longer last year it was, keep proving us wrong. We're going to go out and do it. Now it's like, we want to prove ourselves right, essentially. And I think, talking to these guys, I was with a decent amount of them yesterday, they're confident. They truly feel that they can go in there and play big boy ball. And I'm excited to see what they can do. I think the injury bug for both teams just stinks, Mark. It is like, from any fan, I don't think you want to see that. I want to see both teams at full strength and see what we can do.
Yeah. You must have known where I was headed next, because and you're about as close to this program as, I don't want to put a number on it, 10, 15, 50 people out there. You're, in that group, but still, you don't know what the injury status are of these players. I know people demand that of you. People demand that of me. So right. Play. How healthy are they?
The number of texts I've gotten this morning already on, or in between yesterday and today, as if I'm like the actual doctor, is hilarious. But yeah, go on.
So we've got two beat up running back rooms to some extent. On the Michigan side, we'll focus there. We saw that Luke Schoonmaker didn't play. I really like your third string tight end, Loveland. He's got potential.
He is. He legitimately. I mean, I think Harbaugh has said this about every tight end that's come through. But like, he's going to be the next guy. He's going to be one of our best tight ends ever. So athletic. I would compare him athletic wise to Eric Hall, who obviously we're really missing this. Down this stretch. He just needs to beef up. He's not quite there yet physically, but I mean, super athletic kid.
And then we see where Mozzie Smith misses action, and Mike Morris, I think, made the statement, hey, I got this ankle issue, but if it was that other game that's coming up, I would be on the field, so I'm going to be there. So, I think one of your offensive linemen is Will.
Yeah, I can run it down a little bit here. So, I mean, you had Trente Jones still out with a high ankle injury last week. Carson Barnhart's filling in there. Trevor Keegan was out with an injury as well, undisclosed. I think Michigan's hoping to get Keegan back. I don't know that for sure. Trente's been working and practicing a lot. I just don't know where exactly he's at. Donovan Edwards didn't play on Saturday as well, which is a key piece, obviously, especially when you see Corum go down. I think that he's questionable for Saturday still. With a hand injury, so we'll see where he's at. Corum, obviously, you see him go down, you see him try and come back, and then can't do it. I hope it's precautionary there, to say let's get you rested up. We think we can win this without you. He's handing out turkeys, walking around on Sunday, which is awesome to see. That's an aside, just a really cool thing. I think a lot of people, if you're the Heisman guy and you've got the biggest game of your career coming up and you're a little beat up, nobody would have blamed him if he said, hey, guys, I can't do it today. But I got to give him 1,000% credit for
absolutely. I saw that as well and thought that was amazing that, from both standpoints, that, hey, can I just focus this week, even if I'm completely healthy or whatever? I'll do really good things 51 weeks out of the year. But then on top of it, yeah, I thought, well, that's a good sign in terms of his health. But more than that, hey, I got to give him all sorts of credit for being out there, not being like, hey, I just got hurt. I'll help in any way I can when I get healthy.
Yeah,
But to
right.
be doing that, that's exceptional.
Yeah, and I think it's a good sign, obviously, that he's, at least it didn't look like he was not hobbling, but I think that good that he's upright and walking. I think Michigan hopes to have him back too. If I had to guess, that dude, if he's anywhere near ready to go, he's going to go. And then on the defensive side of the ball, as you said, so you're hoping for Mike Morris back you're hoping for Mozzie Smith at 100% strength. Junior Colson went down in the second half as well. I'm not sure of his status, but I hope that he can go. There's just we're to that point of the year, Mark, where everybody's a little banged up, and I remember going back to like the 2018 game where Michigan was going to Columbus favored for the first time. But they had a bad injury bug, and it really, really affected that game. So I hope it doesn't for Michigan. And then on the Ohio State side, yeah, what have you heard about Travion Henderson, Mayan Williams, et cetera, et cetera?
So Travion Henderson catches a 31-yard touchdown pass and limps off the field, and they gave him another 2 series and some carries, and he was completely ineffective. Obviously, that was good Maryland defense, but he was clearly compromised. Dallin Hayden comes in, and maybe this is a good thing. Maybe they found something here. Runs for 145 yards, shows that I didn't necessarily think that obviously the experience factor is not there with Dallin Hayden, and that he's a slider back, that you wouldn't want him pounding ahead 27 times against a Big Ten defense, let alone now against Michigan. But man, if he's not on that field, they probably don't win that game. So he comes through. I think Mayan Williams, was held out kind of in a Mike Morris type way for precautionary reasons, but he's still far from 100%. It's not going to be Mayan Williams at his best. So that's what we're looking at. I don't have a good feeling about Travion Henderson and don't expect him to play any kind of key role in this game.
Which I think, those are that is obviously Blake Corum is probably like him going down is more important than Travion Henderson going down, because it feels like Ohio State probably has some better depth there. But that is key. I think both of those are key. So then the question is, if all of a sudden Ohio State doesn't have an effective run game and they're banged up and they can't move the ball, what do? You obviously have C.J. Stroud and you have an incredible wide receiver core, but if Michigan can sell out on the pass, it just changes everything, right?
Yeah, this is the one team in the country that if you were going to say you got to throw the ball 60 times and run it 11 and you're going to win this game, they would be the team that you would select. But I don't think against that defense, though. It's just too predictable. It's just too one-dimensional.
Yeah, and I think too. Honestly, what people aren't talking about either is pass protection with those running backs. Those are big boys, and the freshman is not as big of a boy. And so when you're sending linebackers and trying to protect C.J. Stroud, which we all know is probably one of the most important keys to this game, that they keep C.J. Stroud upright. That's something that I'm looking at. I've talked to these D linemen, and they're excited to get after CJ, because I think they know when he is out of the pocket on his butt, feeling pressure, he's a completely different quarterback. And that was the key to last year's win, was being able to rush 4, get to the QB anyway with Ojabo and with Aiden Hutchinson. They can do anything like that, which they haven't been near as good in the pass rush this year as they have last year. But if they can get to Stroud, I think that changes a lot for what this Ohio State offense, and Ohio State could be looking for answers if that's the case. Now, I'll say on the flip side, if he sits back there and gets 10 seconds, then it doesn't matter if they run the ball 0 times on Saturday. They'll be able to throw all over the place. He's really, really good when he's got great protection.
I don't know if I made this comment to you. I've done so many of these segments with just by myself and so forth, but I got to think that IPS addresses coming in from Ohio, Columbus in particular, to like weather.com would crash their server database
it's
here.
very funny because I literally have it up right now, checking on it. It says 49 and sunny Saturday, which is
sunny.
I know.
Like 60% chance of rain at some point.
I mean, there is. So it looks like Friday is a huge chance of rain, like 90% chance. So I'm assuming there could be some change there, but that's a huge factor. It's a huge factor.
Yeah. And I'm going to separate excuse from impact. There is no excuse in losing a football game. If it turns out to be a monsoon and you can't throw the ball and Ohio State loses, no excuse. You chose how you're going to play football. But we can't ignore the impact. If this game is a classic, let's say in the low 30s scoring range, Michigan, unless somebody gets behind, they got to throw it. Michigan wants to throw it like 22 to 25 times, and Ohio State wants to throw it more like 40, 42 times. And it's just more integral to what Ohio State's doing. So it's going to be a big deal. Now, if you have a little bit of rain that can still, with no wind, that I've seen occasions both in the NFL and in college football that plays to the offense's advantage. They know where they're going. Maybe it's a little slick, but not ridiculous. Yeah. So there's all sorts of ways we could go on that discussion with the weather. But Michigan seems more well-equipped regardless of what the temperature is and the weather.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, there's just no way around it. And I agree. I don't see it as excuses. The only thing I would say turns from an impact to an excuse is just if it's cold and like crappy. And then that's where like it becomes a like, are you tough or are you not tough thing to me. Which it felt like there's been discussions about that. How much of it that is real or not, I don't know. Everyone's like, CJ Stroud's a California kid, hates the cold, blah, blah, blah. I think there's probably something to that. If you're not used to it, then you're going to just play better in warm weather. So that's my difference of like an excuse would be it's just cold out. But an impact would be, is it raining and you literally can't throw the ball and guys are, it's going right through their hands or CJ can't hold on to the ball. That's when I would say impact, and you'd much rather just have JJ turn around and hand it off to Blake Corum in that instance than CJ Stroud turning around and handing it off to we're not sure who, right?
Speaking of the ball going through somebody's hands and now seeing this out of the Michigan passing game, there was one shot that JJ McCarthy took when he thought he had a free play that was a laser. Like that is JJ McCarthy at his best. Like this is what he can do. Throws a laser between 3 Illinois defenders, Andrew Anthony, right through
there,
the hands right there. And I think the play before JJ missed him. So what's your level of confidence in the deeper passing game?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's key to Michigan winning. I think it is. If you look back at last year's game, it obviously was a running. It was like if you're an offensive line coach, if you're a running backs coach, I mean, you put that film up and say this is what we want to do. But what happened in that game too was when Michigan needed to throw it, Cade McNamara hit those throws. Even JJ hit throws, the one to Roman on the sideline, right? So when they needed to throw it last year, they did throw it. That's what needs to happen on Saturday as well. Is it doesn't need to be Michigan's huge point of their game, but when you have opportunities like that to Andrell Anthony or like to Colston Loveland in the end zone, you have to execute on those. There's no doubt about that. So, if you're asking about the confidence in it, JJ can make all those throws. I still have no doubt. Like it's not a question in my mind. It's just of executing when it happens. And so I said that last week I would have loved to see him go out, complete passes against Illinois, so he has the confidence going into Columbus. We're to the point now where he's just got to do it. Whether he's confident or not, he's got to make it happen. What I think about JJ though, if I'm knowing him on a personal level, like on a mental level, he sees this as an opportunity. He really does. This is the biggest stage of college football. He sees it as a chance for him to go out and show what he can do. And so that's where, I'm excited for him to be able to show that. He's got his head on so straight that I know that he's not like, down on himself. He's just looking forward. They're going to do whatever to win the game. Obviously I'm sure he wishes that they would throw it 40 times too, so he could showcase. That'd be awesome for him. But, I'm excited to see what he can do and see how I think he'll find a way to impact this game, whether it's with his arm, his legs, or something. But I think he's going to have a really big impact on this game.
I only have one other thing I want to hit on, and it's not a direct matchup, but it's comparing Michigan defense, Ohio State defense. And I think this is just indicative of the two programs and the way they recruit, sign players, who they attract. I think this is very indicative. And folks, if you care about these such things, I did a video where I compared, they've lined up against 6 common opponents now, the entire division plus Iowa. And it's kind of interesting to size it up when you look at it that way. And I know we got to put everything into context. Of course, it's not just about numbers, but when you add it all up, their effectiveness against those 6 opponents is almost exact on defense. If you watch them play, though, Michigan is collectively a better defense, like down in, down out. They're consistent. Ohio State has gashes, leaks, they give up plays, but it's like they got a 5-star that shows up like a few times a game, whether it's Zach Harrison or JT Tuimoloau, most famously against Penn State, where he just takes the game over. And the dudes in the secondary that are just, Tommy Eichenberger is having a ridiculous year, where they just like about 5 times a game just have like a 5-star show up and like strip the ball out or pick off a pass, or they're more like up and down. We'll make spectacular plays, but we'll give up big plays, versus Michigan just kind of grinding it out, doing their job, getting the other team off the field.
Yeah, and that is like the key to what they call the no-star defense, right? That's what they're calling it, and it's turning into no stars. They're all stars in their own way, that's what it's turning into. It's one of those things where it's somebody new every single week that is the star. It turned out to be Mason Graham was a big piece on a fresh, true freshman in the middle of the defense, because Mozzie Smith is out. And so I agree with that. And I think that, I think that plays to Michigan's advantage in this game, because Ohio State just wants to like hit the deep ball, get the big play, right? That's what they thrive on. If Michigan, were to play like Ohio State does, where it's like we get gashed and then we make a big play, I think you end up getting gashed more often against Ohio State. But the fact that Michigan is so consistent, and if they play like they did last year, where it's like keep the ball in front of you, keep them contained. We'll take, if they want to get 8-10 yards, that's fine, but don't let them get 48, that type of thing. I think that's where Michigan wants to play this game. And then in the red zone is where it's really key. That was the key to last year, was keeping Ohio State out of the red zone or out of the end zone multiple times in the first half. Otherwise, it's going to be 21, 13 at halftime. Or 21-14, whatever it was. And so, I think that's the key is keeping them out of the end zone and not letting that big play happen.
Justin Rowe, BlueBy90.com, Wolverine Plus. Anything you want to let us know, Justin, about? Obviously, this is the week that not only Ohio State and Michigan fans come together, but there are college football nerds out there that just want to know about this game. And so what do you guys have available?
We have, so on Wolverine.plus, if you go to Wolverine.plus tonight, it's all free for this entire week. Rivalry week, we've got the programming tonight. We've got John Colasar and Caden Colasar on to talk a little father-son action about the game. 2 guys that have played in this game. Obviously, John Colasar is a legend of this game from
he broke my heart in 1988. Yes, 1988 was the year. Yes.
And then, you know, his son, obviously Caden has been, he's been injured, which has sucked, but still was a big piece of the special teams last year. And so that's going to be very fun for them to talk and just chat it up. And we'll have Taylor Lewan on again this Wednesday, I believe, as well. So having some really cool stuff on Wolverine.plus. And then at Blue by 90, we've got coverage all week long as well. So covering, you know, the game, covering these guys. We're very excited about. I mean, there's nothing. If you're a Michigan or Ohio State fan and you're focusing on anything else this week, you're a liar. Because my mind has been there from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep. Absolutely. And a little bit during the night too.
Absolutely. There's just nothing like it. I was trying to explain to somebody the other day, and they just didn't quite get it, but I think they can believe it coming out of my mouth, that growing up in this rivalry and watching this game every year, this game meant more to me than anything. It meant more than Ohio State. You know, it meant more than those rankings, you know, somebody being the AP #1 voted national champ. This game, I don't care what the records were. This always meant more than anything.
Absolutely. That's why I've got this behind me this week. I had to bring it out.
Oh wow!
Hassan jumping over the pile. I'm trying to manifest some stuff to happen again. Here going on. So. Exactly. So I will be in Columbus. I'll be heading down there Friday for the game. So if anybody hits me up in the DMs and wants to meet up, please let me know. We'll have some Michigan fans there. I'm trying not to get beat up. I'm just trying to make it out of there alive.
For whatever reach we have here, Ohio State fans, I know there are many that will watch this. Be nice to Justin. Be kind. You know, you can hate him for 3.5 hours, but you're not going to sit there and watch the game with him. So before the game, after the game, whatever, be civil, be nice.
I'm all here for some friendly trash talk. I said go blue to a guy. I was in Ford Field for the Bills game. Bills-Browns yesterday, which was actually very fun and loud.
How many people were there?
There was like 50, 60,000 people there. It was packed.
Okay.
It was absolutely packed. It was very fun. But there was an Ohio State or a guy wearing Ohio State, and I just did a little, hey, go blue, on the way out. And he's like, F you. I was like, man, I'm just trying to, can we have a little, banter here? It doesn't need to turn into us, at each other's throats immediately. So, I get it. It's a triggering hot topic. I get it, but yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna try and make it out alive. If you don't hear from me next week, you know what happened.
Okay, Buckeye fans, be nice, be kind. Come on, Justin. We always appreciate this great conversation, and enjoy the trip to Columbus. Don't enjoy it too much, but enjoy the trip to Columbus. And
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me.